So my name is Ada. I am the open house review chair. So I'll thank you guys for coming today. I really appreciate it. So we have a lot of great information today. We have a lot of, I see a couple of new faces. So thank you for coming. So I'm gonna have Mr. Jose talking about some real estate news.
All right. All right, good morning, everyone. Now, obviously, we all our feet combined cannot fill the shoes that Marcel has left, but we are here to definitely try to fill in that gap. There's two topics I wanted to talk to you guys about, just really quick and briefly. First and foremost, safety comes first. In the last month, there have been 3 assaults on realtors and open houses. So you guys, please use the buddy system. If you don't feel safe with someone going into a vacant house and they're there with you, tell them to tour the house, take a step behind, and you stand outside for your own protection. Safety comes first, before money, before anything else. Your health and your life matters more than anything else. So that's first and foremost. There's been 3 assaults, 1 in Long Beach and 2 in like Palos Verdes area as well. So these are happening all over the place. Unfortunately, desperate times calls for desperate measures, and people are getting pretty desperate out there. The second thing is new housing supposed to potentially come to Fullerton. The California Association of Realtors actually is overturning a suit they have with the city of Fullerton to make more affordable housing. So with that being said, there is gonna be potentially more housing to come. They're trying to combat the whole high prices, so they want to make sure housing is available for all. So those are the only 2 topics we have for this week. We are gonna have more upcoming in the next coming weeks. If you guys have any topics you guys want us to brush up on, please let us know. Obviously, we're here to bring as much value as we can for you guys. Thank you.
I also have more good news, but I have Wendy Hope coming to see me. Well,
Hi, good morning, everyone.
good morning.
My name is Wendy Holt. I was once upon here. And, today I'm coming as Aria LA Coastal. So I'm the membership director. Have you guys heard of Aria? Just in general? Yes, okay. Well, we partner up this year with the Rancho Southeast Board. So a lot of you guys probably saw the emails go out or social media or whatever. So this is me inviting you, letting you know that Aria is here. And we have a lunar year event. A lot of you guys have to apply. We don't have one. There's one up front. But this event particularly is in the city of Alameda, so it's a little far out from y'all. But we're gonna cover pretty much our whole territory, which goes up to Santa Monica to Cerrito. So we'll be doing stuff everywhere. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel. Stay in tune with everything that we have going on with this. Is our lunar event. It's next Tuesday. It's $20 for members and $40 for non-members. We feed you, we give you knowledge, and we want to help you grow your real estate business with that. As well as we have a feng shui guy who kind of gives you the land of what feng shui and how all that works. And after this event, we have a women's event in March. April, we have a home buyers seminar. And then in May, we have a casino night, which will be in the city of Long Beach. But we're also doing a mixer here for Cerrito, so keep an eye out for that. So that's it. Just want to invite you to this and let you know what Aria is. So thank you.
Thank you.
So today I'm gonna be the sponsor of the week. So thank you guys so much for coming. As you guys know, I'm Ada. I'm the chair for the open house preview. I'm also an escrow officer. So I would love to work with all of you guys. I know it's tough this time around. I know you have to get creative and you have to have a good team and in your site pretty much. So if you guys want to give me a try, I'll be here. Thank you guys so much. And I'll go ahead and have my speakers come up, which is gonna be Lioness. That's me.
Great, so good morning, everyone. I think some of you have already heard me speak here before. If so, great. I'm glad you're here because guess what? Studies show that you actually have to hear something 7 times before it actually gets through to you. If this is your second or third, then I'm like working towards my goal successfully. My name is Lioness, and again, I have spoken here a few times. I want to thank these lovely ladies in the second row over here, Wendy and Ada. who are great colleagues, also clients, so they've drank the Kool-Aid. So, this stuff works. I'm an estate planning attorney, and that is all I do, day in, day out. I specialize in estate planning, and for those of you who have heard about wills, great, I do that. But really, my emphasis is on living trust. And I think I couldn't be in a more great setting because I'm amongst you professionals, and believe it or not, this absolutely affects you and your clients and your loved ones and your neighbors. So my talk for the month of February is actually going to be Love and Legacy. How fitting, it's Valentine's Day. We knew it was Valentine's Day in like January, right? When they were putting up like the heart candy and all of that. Basically, I'm going to focus on how we protect our loved ones through living trusts and LLCs, because yes, you guys have clients who are also landlords, right? Who own commercial buildings, who own single family residences, they own multi-units, and they really need to know about how to protect their assets by limiting their liability, as in not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? If you're a landlord, you're not going to commingle your rental properties with your personal residence. That's not protecting yourself, that's not protecting your spouse or your kids. Again, I do estate planning, that is it. I have some people that'll hit me up and like, oh, but can you help me with divorce or family law? No, I can't. I think that's really why you're gonna find that I'm one of the few happy attorneys that you know, because I stay in my own lane. And I try to stay away from family law and divorce. I am a graduate of UCLA, so for those of you who are. We can still be friends.
You guys feel excited.
I'm also a student in business formation, so, again, for those of you who have questions about LLCs, corporations, and that kind of structure, we can talk about them. And then, what am I doing here today? I am speaking in front of all you lovely people. I love educating the community about this stuff. Why? Because there's a big gap in knowledge. People just, they don't know. We're still kind of stuck in that kind of scene where it's like, oh, we know all about wills. We transfer everything through our children through wills. Why? Because in the movie, there's a dramatic will reading. Someone's fainting. Someone's pissed off because they're not getting out. That's great. That's the movie. That's not real life. Okay. In real life, you transfer real estate through a living trust. And so if you have opportunities where you want to hold like an event for your clients or your family or your book club, I've done book clubs, right? I'm happy to do this on Zoom. I'm happy to do this live. Oh, it doesn't want to work. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the reason why estate planning is important to me, I honestly and genuinely believe that I think what makes me effective as an estate planning attorney is that I'm like every single one of you. I am married, I have kids, I have a blended family, my husband's a landlord, I'm a small business owner. That's a lot like everybody. And so when people are coming to me and, we're talking about their colorful family drama, trust me, if you're sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to tell her about this, I already heard it 500 times, like a different iteration. Human beings, we're just colorful people, right? We find ourselves in colorful situations, and I am well equipped to handle that because of this. So when you tell me, oh, I don't want to leave my son with $1 million when I die, even though my son's 50, I got you. Young adults, right? I got it. So, and then, I've got parents too who are like, well, my emphasis is on my grandchildren's college education. I understand that. I really, really do. A lot of people, when we sit down and talk about their estate plan, it's really not about the money. You would be surprised. Yes, you're coming to me because you want to protect your families from probate, but we delve really deep, and it's really important that, you're dealing with somebody who, one, that you trust, right? You trust with the family secrets, and trust me, attorney-client privilege is real. Whatever you tell me does not leave our circle of safety, right? But it's important that you find somebody relatable and trustworthy. Next slide, please. Okay. First topic is estate plans and living trust. Next slide, please. So an estate plan basically has many moving parts. Usually people will come to me and they'll be like, oh, I want a will. And then I tell them, well, actually you need a living trust. And then we start talking about, you know, what happens if you become sick. And they come to me and they're like, but I just want a will and a living trust. But that's not really how life works. Everybody thinks that when we start talking about estate planning, you're just gonna die. That's not how it works. Usually people are living longer these days, right? Baby boomers are living longer, and that's why the medical field's expanding and long-term care insurance is getting more expensive. You usually experience a decline in health before you transition and pass away. And when I say decline in health, like the physical body fails, but really what I'm dealing with a lot is dementia. I'm dealing a lot with cognitive disorders. And I want you to understand something. Once we start creeping into cognitive disorder territory, it might be a little too late for you to start your estate plan. Because I have to be able to deal with somebody who has capacity. If we can't be on the same page about, you know, oh, and what, do you trust your son, but you're telling me you don't have a son? We're in trouble, right? That's the point of no return. So it's good to start thinking about these things while you still can. Because unfortunately, I am that girl that clients call and we're already in the hospital. Now I'm doing a deathbed plan in 2 days, right? And I can tell you, sometimes I don't do these deathbed plans with people because once I get to you and you're in this moment of duress and pain, and now you're just worried that the end is like 2 seconds away and you want to write everybody off, you're really not in a place to make a sound and stable estate plan, right? You don't want to be in a stressed out situation. I've done estate plans for people who have gotten diagnoses, right, for a terminal illness. And that's really scary because when you're in that position, you're not necessarily thinking the way you would the year before when you were in great health, right? So you want to do this when you're in a good position to do so, not because you're against the wall and now you're like, I can't let my 3 houses go to probate. Right? You don't want to ever be in that position. You don't want anyone you know to be in that position. So again, an estate plan is about a lot of important pieces. It's not just the will. It's not just the living trust, but it's also about power of attorney. Next slide. Oh, that was right. Okay. All right. So typically an estate plan consists of all of this. You'll see that the 4 items, the property power of attorneys for property, the healthcare directives, HIPAA, those are necessary for everybody. I don't care what you own. I don't care what tax bracket you fit in. Those 4 items for everybody. Why? Because something could happen to you. You could be in a coma. You could, you know, just, I have this a lot. I have a lot of clients that fall and next thing you know, we got a broken hip or we've got to get a knee replacement and now we're in rehab for like a month, right? Everybody needs this. And then you're going to see the top 2, living trust and a will. These are applicable. Why? Because that depends on what you own. What you own. So what's a living trust? Essentially, it's a paper document. I know you know that. It's a contract between you and your beneficiary, and it holds title to your assets. This is probably the most important slide of today. And don't worry, I'm going to go back to it. Why? A lot of people, kids of prospective clients will come to me and say, my dad owns 2 houses, but what I need you to do, Lioness, is I need you to get on the phone and basically sell to him why he needs a living trust. And I'm like, wait. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an attorney. Salespeople probably make a lot more money than I do. No, I'm an attorney. My job is not to give pitches. That's not my job. What I'm doing is I'm informing you about the facts and you can take it or leave it and we can still be friends, whether you're my client or not, right? So why do you need a living trust? If you own real estate, the golden rule actually before last year was if you own real estate or have interest in real estate, for instance, you and a bunch of investors own a 200 unit apartment, you need a living trust. But changes started happening last year with Medi-Cal. So Medi-Cal used to be able to attach themselves onto your assets. If you ever got onto Medi-Cal, And they would put liens on your house, liens on your bank account, right? And they'd be able to recoup whatever they spent on you during, the time that you used Medi-Cal. Well, last year, prior to July, if you could claim that you had, as a single person, had $2,000 or less in a bank account, as a married person, 3,600 jointly, if you could prove that to Medi-Cal, that that's all you had in a bank account, they would let you in the door and they'd say, great, you can avail yourself of Medi-Cal services. July, it changed, and they said, if you are a single person with $130,000 in your bank account, you can be in Medi-Cal. Double that for married people. Why? Because they're betting on you to apply for Medi-Cal and not get smart with your estate plan. Because what they want to do is, they want you to pass away, no trust in place, and they can come after your bank account. So smart of them, right? And believe me, Medi-Cal is already a $1 billion industry. They're already coming after houses and all sorts of things. But now they're widening their nets. So what does that mean for me? I started forming trusts last year for people who had 6 figures in the bank or 6 figures in assets, but no real estate. That changed for me, and it's changing for the community. So I'm letting you know. Now, the golden rule isn't just if you have real estate or any piece of real estate or any of that. Now it's if you have 6 figures in financial assets and no real estate. Now you need a living trust too, unless you're okay with the money going to Medi-Cal. Great, that's your prerogative, right? The second one is single homeowners. Oh man, this one's getting me hard this year. I don't mind being the bearer of bad news. I can do that. That's what I do for a living, right? I can deliver bad news. I'm just the messenger. I didn't create the problem, right? But all of you have clients that you know are single homeowners. All of you, for whatever reason, because the wife couldn't qualify for the mortgage, because the husband wants to own everything, whatever it is. But these are the people that you need to contact first. Because once they pass away and there's no trust in place, you sent them on a one-way ticket to probate court. That's it. That's it. With my married couples, we can gamble just a tad, right? Because if we own things in joint tenancy, great. Spouse passes away, the living spouse has to get it together really fast and, get a trust together. But when I only have one homeowner, we're done. We're done. That one homeowner dies and there's no doing nothing. The power of attorney dies because it's only with one person. There's no will, there's no living trust. We're going to probate court. I've got a niece that I'm dealing with right now, and she reached out to me for a living trust, and she's like, oh yeah, and by the way, I inherited. When I hear inherited, my ears just perk up. I'm like, wait up, wait, pump the brakes. I inherited a house from my uncle. Great. Was the house in trust? No. Okay. Was the house owned jointly with you and your uncle? No. So who's on title? My dead uncle. I can't help you. I'm not going to probate. I'm just not. It's not a happy process. And I want to stay happy. Okay, number 3, if you have minor children or children with special needs, that's a big one. I do special needs trust. And that's a special area of estate planning, because if your child is already receiving benefits, you don't want to disqualify them because they're going to receive a house from you, because they're listed as a beneficiary on your IRA, or because you've listed them as a beneficiary for your life insurance. You want to make sure that their benefits still keep coming. And the only way to ensure that is through a special needs trust, right? And then of course, if you have financial assets that are above $184,000, why is that? So if you have a retirement account and we're already above that, you need a living trust in place. Because anything below that number, and it raises every year, because last year it was 166,000, right? If you have that number right now and we're above it, we cannot collect your assets with an affidavit. See that affidavit of small estates? We cannot collect your assets with an affidavit. They're going to send you to probate court. Well, not you. You're the loved ones that you leave behind, right? So that's the magic number for that. Anything below that, so, sometimes my clients, 20 years later, forget to tell me I've got an extra insurance policy, over here, or I've got a bank account over here, or I changed banks, they forget to tell me. And most of the time it's fine, because I can still help their beneficiaries collect the monies with a small estate affidavit. But once we start creeping past that 184,000, I begin to fret. I'm like, okay, is the financial representative on the end of the line, like, are they gonna be my friend today, or is this gonna be a tough job for me, right? And you want things to be easy for the people that you leave behind. They're already grieving. And grief, if you ever experienced it with your loved ones, it takes on different shades with different people, right? Some people get angry, some people shut down. It's interesting. So, a lot of this has to do with the ease of transitioning and the ease of transfer. All right, we already talked about the change in Medi-Cal laws. Medi-Cal just wants everything that you have, and they're kind of betting on the fact that you're not gonna do anything. And sadly, it's a good bet for them. They are a billion-dollar industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. All right, what is a will? A will is just like a trust. It's a paper document, right? It designates, for those of you who have minor children, the will is the document that designates who gets to be legal guardian if something happened to you and your spouse. And that's really important, especially for my parents. None of us want our kids to spend 1 minute in the system. Not good, right? And if you don't have a living trust, if you're not a candidate, just like that last slide, kind of pointed out what makes you a candidate, then it also designates your beneficiary. So I do have clients that have less than $100,000 in total of everything, right? And that's fine. We can leave things to your beneficiaries in a will. But again, not everyone is a candidate for just a will, because that scope widened last year because of the changes in Medi-Cal. That's a slide, if you had to explain to your clients, why do I need a living trust? Those are your 4 reasons. And you don't have to sell them. It's the truth. It's the truth, and they can take it or leave it. Okay, property power of attorney. So I kind of touched upon this. A property power of attorney allows you to make decisions for someone else, or it allows you to appoint someone else to make decisions for you, just in case. And I've had to put it in place for parents who leave the country, right? I'm going to Southeast Asia for a year. I need my sister that I leave behind to pay my bills for me. It could be that benign, but it could also be, I'm now in a coma and I didn't make changes to my estate plan before I got into this coma. Now my husband has to make changes for me, right? And I bring the husband part up because a lot of people are under the impression that if I'm married, my spouse can just do whatever they want for me. They can sign for me because I'm married. And that's the biggest misconception ever. I had a client like, well, I don't need your power of attorney, Lioness, because I'm just gonna go to the bank and show them my marriage certificate. And I just had to laugh. Good luck with that. Tell me how that ends up for you. They're not gonna do anything for you. They're gonna be like, yes, and. Where's the other instrument? That's the property power of attorney. This one, oh, I got so excited about it last week. Jay Leno files for conservatorship over wife Mavis's estate after dementia diagnosis. This thing blew my mind. I know it's people, let me live. I gotta read my tabloid. Conservatorship. What does that tell us? This dude, who's worth $1 bajillion trillion with 80 vintage cars in a special garage somewhere in Burbank, did not have power of attorneys in place. What blew my mind? I seriously called 5 different attorneys and 5 different paralegals. Like, did you just see this? Who is he kicking it with that they didn't once say, once you made your second million, maybe you need an estate plan? Who was he hanging out with? Now he's got to go to court, and he could have fixed this with a power of attorney. Kills me. And dementia, of course. Like I said, we're dealing with a lot of decline in health, and the first thing to go is usually your cognitive function. So he could have fixed this with a property power of attorney. Forget the living trust now. He could have really avoided this so easily. And then that goes to show you, he's not that special because he's a lot like us. He just wasn't thinking that he would get here. He wasn't thinking. All right, most of the times, property power of attorneys allow for estate plans to happen at all. This is true. You know, I still have people out there that are like, I'm not gonna think about a time where I'm not here on earth with my loved one, but I'll do a property power of attorney with you. Great, great, that's step one, right? And then, oh, all of a sudden I have dementia, but that property power of attorney allows your husband or your child to create the trust for you. So it's almost like a safety net. It's not the best one. I would never gamble on that. Because once you die, that power of attorney does nothing for you. Right? If you didn't have things in place, all the boxes checked, does nothing. But in some cases, it helps. Okay, a healthcare power of attorney. So there's two different types. There's the property, where people make decisions for you legally. They get to access your financial account, pay your bill. And then there's the healthcare power of attorney. The healthcare power of attorney only has to deal with things in a medical setting, your doctors and nurses. Who gets to tell, you know, the doctor, put her on life support? Who gets to tell the doctor she needs pain meds? Who gets to tell the doctor she wants to keep her organs intact, right? That's what the healthcare power of attorney does. They make decisions for you in a medical setting. And then the healthcare directive, I sort of touched on that. You do want to think about what your decisions would be if you can no longer tell us. You're in the hospital bed, but you can't talk. Why? You're in your final moments. We want to know. Do you want us to extend your life? You know, do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you not want to be on a ventilator? Do you want to donate your organ? That stuff's important. You got to think about it, because if you don't, then they get a social worker making decisions for you. A stranger. Some people are okay with that. Most people aren't, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the part where I talk about entities. So we've now left living trust land. We're now in LLC land. Again, I've got a lot of people that are multitasking. I know there's a bunch of you multitaskers in the room, right? Small business owners, landlords. And my advice to you would be to insulate yourself from liability as much as possible. If you are a CPA, incorporate, right? Do not let your clients have the ability to come after your personal assets, your home, your retirement accounts. Don't leave the door open for them to do that, right? You want to, if you're a landlord, you want to keep your landlord liabilities strictly where your rental property is, even if it's just a single family residence, right? It's important. All right, next slide, please. So corporations, they are separate and distinct identities, right? And they protect the owners from being personally liable for whatever it is that you're doing in your business. And typically corporations and LLCs will have their own social security numbers. We call it EINs, but that's how you know that you've separated yourself from your business, because I have a social security number, but the law office portion has an EIN. It's different, right? Next slide, please. So corporations are typically used for personal services. With regard to my clients, doctors will have them, CPAs, attorneys, nurses, engineers, realtors, brokers. They will typically use the corporation structure. And then for the LLC, again, they provide the same limited liability as a corporation. Some of my clients think, well, if I form an LLC, that means they're harder to get to me. That's not true. Because if you're doing dirty, okay, if you're forging things or committing fraud, trust me, a judge will create a corporate veil order and they will pierce that corporate veil. I don't care whether you're in a corporation or an LLC. So behave yourself, right? That's a good rule. The structure really just depends on who are you dancing with? Do you have a business partner? Are you going solo? Are you into a lot of compliance? Can you handle zero compliance? How good are you at babysitting yourself with regard to whatever, bookkeeping, expenses? So that's really what the difference in structure is. It's like, what other factors are we dealing with besides I want to insulate myself from liability? LLCs tend to be, popular vehicles because there is a lot of flexibility in taxation, especially as compared to a sole proprietorship or a partnership. Next slide, please. And typically, LLCs are used by my landlords, real estate investments, rental income properties, restaurant investors. Those typically are popular with the LLC structure. Next slide, please. Okay, so why do you need an estate plan? Well, obviously, you want to protect your loved ones, right? That's a big one. That's a big one. I think I mentioned that when my clients come to me, we're not really obsessing over your 401k. We're not obsessing over the stock market. We're not obsessing over the fact that you got your eye on that commercial real estate over there. We're really obsessing over who you're leaving behind and who you're putting in charge. That's a really big talk for me. And these are the people, these are the reasons for getting your act together and getting your ducks in a row and getting that estate plan together, right? And then, of course, for my business owners, it just comes naturally. Yeah, you want to protect yourself. You don't want to hand over your assets to the first person who starts a claim against you. That's not savvy and that's not smart. All right. So when did you need an estate plan? Next slide, please. I'm pretty sure yesterday. I'm pretty sure you needed an estate plan yesterday. It's funny because I know that the new year has started because I get frantic calls like, I've been thinking about this the last 5 years. I know you have. I know you have, right? It's very important. All right, next slide, please. And my advice to all of you, to all of your clients, to all of the people that you know and love, really get started. And you can get started by getting educated. I give free consultations. And the reason why I do that is because it's important for my prospects to feel me out, right? I don't bite, you can tell them now. And so I do free consultations via Zoom or telephone, but it's also important for me to feel you out. Because just because you want to work with me doesn't necessarily mean I want to work with you, right? I have a lot of people that are motivated to get started. I've got 4 kids. I want to leave this to them. Great. I have 2 houses. Great. And then we get to the part where I'm like, well, great. So you have the impetus to get started on this genuinely. Who do you trust? I don't trust any of my 4 kids. Okay, now we've hit a wall. For a successful estate plan, yeah, I need you to leave something behind to leave a blessing. Absolutely. But I also need you to put people in place that you trust implicitly. That you trust to have access to your bank account and write checks and not steal from your children. Because if we don't have that, I'm not your attorney. Right? That's what makes a successful estate plan. We put responsible people in place. And if you don't have responsible people in your life, trust me, I'm on the other line thinking, do you live in a hole? Like, you have no friends, you have no church buddies, you don't trust any family members to do what is important. So that makes me question you. What kind of relationships do you have that you don't trust anybody, but you want to leave stuff to your 4 kids, right? So again, that's why I give free consultations. Yes, I love giving, educating the community, but not everybody's my client. Not everybody is. Wendy and Nate are. So if you want a testimony, you could talk to them. So you want to make sure that they get with the right professional. And I say that, why do I say that? I just had a Zoom meeting last night with a couple in San Francisco, and they bought a CD. Oh man, please don't buy a CD. Gosh. And I say that because I retain enough people that are like, I'm gonna become my own estate planning attorney. And I look at this stuff and I'm like, oh, I want to throw up. Why? So they bought a CD and I'm like, well, why are you talking to me if you like did your own stuff, right? And they're like, we never notarized it and we never did this. And I'm like, okay, so that should be a red flag for you that you didn't get your plan done, right? Or I have, I've got another couple in San Jose and they're like, yeah, we got an estate planning attorney and after a year they stopped returning our calls. I'm like, a year? It's it took a year for you to try to get your act together, no. I typically work on a 30-day time frame, and honestly, I can work faster than that. Like I said, unfortunately, I get deathbed plans and I get all of it. So I can work faster than that. It just depends on how solid your decisions are, right? If you're coming to me and you're like, I don't trust nobody, we're not getting started. We're not getting started. But a year is egregious. A year is egregious. Things happen in moments, right? So you have to be careful who you're working with. You have to be careful about, those CDs. You have to be careful about turning into your own, estate planning attorney. Be wary of those financial advisors who are pushing a trust form at you. Be wary of the life insurance people. And I love life insurance agents. I love you guys. But be wary of them because they're not necessarily asking you the right questions, right? And that's, anybody can give you a paper document, anybody, but you want to make sure that somebody, you're dealing with a professional who just knows, right? That's really what you're paying for. That's what you're paying for. Here's my contact info. Feel free to text me. It's a San Diego number. I grew up in San Diego, so big Navy town. Yes, I'm a Navy brat. So if we have any veterans out there, I just want to say thank you to you and your family for your service and your sacrifice. You can also email me. I'm really easy to access. Again, if you've got people, you're single homeowners, because I'm getting a lot of that this year, that could use advice or a talk or, want to do a question and answer session, I'm your girl. And, yeah.
Great job, Linus, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you.
Quick question regarding pricing. Is there a range of cost
Yeah,
that we can maybe think about
absolutely, absolutely.
for your
So
services?
I start at $3,250 per individual. And then I start at $3,500 for couples. And the reason why I say I start at is because all of you come to me and you're not just owning one home. You maybe own 2 homes or 3 homes, or you need an LLC and now you got to transfer this commercial property in the LLC. So it just goes upwards from those base prices.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Can we use a trust as a beneficiary in our bank accounts instead of going and changing the bank account itself?
You could,
It's
you
valid,
could,
right?
yeah.
It's valid.
but let me tell you something. Banks don't train their representatives very well.
Oh, they're not changing, they say
I
you have
know.
to change it.
I can, and but what's funny? You bring your attorney to the bank with you and all of a sudden they know what they're doing. So, that might be your route. I can't tell you how many bank meetings I just sit at and I'm just sitting there like, I'm the person that formed the trust, here's a certificate, and all of a sudden things are going great, but for the last 3 months, they've been giving my client hell, right? So you can do that. I'm saying it might not be easy depending on how well your bank has trained their representative. Yes.
I have a question. I know you said you don't deal with probate, but on average, how long is the probate process?
God. Okay, so remember that little thing called COVID? So before COVID, an easy one used to be 1.5 years, 2 years. And then COVID happened and then everybody died without a plan. So then attorneys, it would take 4 months, 5 months to even get on the docket to appear before a judge. And that's last year. I don't, so it's taking a longer time. It is. I think 2.5 years is like easy. And I say easy when it's like no one's fighting. But once you start some family drama, girl, good luck. Yes.
Where is the process of when you go to probate?
Okay, so probate is a state determined schedule. We don't determine it, because trust me, if we did, I need $1 million. That stuff is crazy. It's crazy stuff. But it's like, I'm gonna give you an example, 1% off the first million, something like that, and then at 2% off the next 200,000. It's a rubric. Yeah. So like, what did I look at recently? Like a $600,000 house is probably $8,000 just in fees just in probate fees. We're not talking about publication, we're not talking about the price of the bond. We're not talking about filing fees, we're not talking about CPAs. We're talking about just the state commanded fees that go to the attorney. Yeah, and then, homes in California, I don't have to tell you this. Are there $600,000 homes anymore? No. I wish. There's not. Where we wanna live. Yeah, okay, one, yeah, right, yeah. Okay, well,
Hey, one last question, anybody? We're good.
yeah, you have my contact.
Well, the thing I do want to say, I did my same training with her about last year. And I know a couple of attorneys. And I interviewed, because, the difference is that she asked the right question. Because I do have a list. So she asked the right questions for him. The only one to say, here's the questionnaire, fill it out, and then let's move forward. But she took the time to ask the right questions, and for me, that will save a lot of things for me. Because sometimes we are educated in our field. If you ask me escrow, let's talk escrow all day. But when it comes to, and I see trust in an escrow, but it's not the same thing, it's not the same question. So that's the reason why I decided to go with her. But thank you so much, Lioness, for coming in.
Thank
We appreciate
you.
you.